May I request the members of Sikhs of America to come on the stage, please? A historic moment for all of us over here. What I understand from the members of the community is that this is the Siropa ceremony. And as I said, it's going to create history. May I request the Honorable Minister Sahab to please come to the stage for this wonderful ceremony over here. Joining him, of course, is our Consul General Ranveer Jaiswal. We've been waiting for. May I request Mr. Saab, sir, I'd rather like you to not leave the stage and come over here and address the gathering. Ladies and gentlemen, there's so much more that I wanted to say in honor of the Minister, but while he's already here on the stage, let's give him a round of applause, a warm welcome, and keeping up with the patriotic fervor, let's say Bharat Mata Ki Jai! Bharat Mata Ki Jai! Bharat Mata Ki Jai! Sir, please, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much for the very warm welcome that all of you have given me today. Thank you, Shri Ranveer Jaiswal, the Honorable Consul General of India in New York. Thank you, Mayor Hemant Marathi for gracing the occasion and giving me the privilege of meeting you. Another Mumbaiker, originally. Delighted to have Shri Adapa Prasadji, Shri Deepak Rajji, Dr. Sudhir Parekh, Dr. Thomas Abraham, and all the other distinguished ladies and gentlemen, friends, brothers and sisters who have taken the time to be with us here. Thank you very much for honoring me with your presence and for giving me an opportunity to meet with all of you, to interact with you and celebrate Pravasi Bharat Divas along with all of you at this beautiful county. Is Edison a county or? Council. Because truly as we drove into this place, I felt I was back home. I mean, we had nullies, Kalaniketan. And I think there's something special in the air here. And of course, I got an opportunity to express my views to the Indian diaspora on one of the interviews that was held. I got a chance to meet with some of our well-wishers in New York and New Jersey who had assembled in the other room, and therefore my apologies to all of you that you had to wait for us because some other meetings were going on. But truly delighted to be amongst all of you and at the wonderful reception that you have honored me with. We have just celebrated 75 years of India's independence, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, with great pomp and splendor back home. In fact, you might have heard about it, but if any of you experienced the Har Ghar Tiranga program, we literally had a Tiranga being unfurled across the length and breadth of the country. Every home, every shop, every office had a Tiranga bright and loudly proclaiming India's unity and unity in diversity. In fact, I'm grateful to Chinmay and all our young daughters for the brilliant performances they gave us today, because truly it's very heartening to see India's culture being and our traditions being kept alive by all of you. And I'd like to thank you for, in some sense, instigating Indian value systems in the youth, the Indians who are born here, who are living here, who are largely exposed to the American way of life, American lifestyle, that little bit of Indian tradition, value systems, family culture, I think will hold them in good stead as they grow up to be good citizens of the United States of America, but at the same time also have a little bit of India in their hearts, a little bit of our own country, our own rich heritage, as they grew up to be worthy Indians, proud Indians, but serve whichever country they choose to live and work in. In fact, the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is one such occasion which the then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee had started to celebrate all of you and your achievements. And I'm really delighted to be in New Jersey on this very, very auspicious occasion, celebrating with all of you, being a part of your celebrations, celebrating Mahatma Gandhi's arrival back in India after nearly 20 years as a Pravasi Bharatiya in South Africa, way back in 1915. And truly, your contribution as NRIs, as persons of Indian origin, as overseas Indians, is well recognized and appreciated by 1.4 billion Indians back home who look up to you as the ambassadors of India, as the people who hold the Indian flag high in whichever country you live and work in. Wherever you are serving, we feel back home that you will be the torch bearers of the India story. over the years, I think the Indians in the United States of America have performed exceedingly well. Both the US and India are vibrant democracies. We both have very strong linkages and bonds of friendship, very strong geopolitical ties, huge interests in business, in trade, in economic well-being of both countries. In fact, India is happy that the United States of America is our largest trading partner. And as Prime Minister Modi recently said, India is the mother of all democracies. Bharat Loktantra ki janani hai. If we go back into our traditional scriptures, the Rig Vedas, the old texts, in India, thousands of years ago, we used to have strong democratic traditions. We used to have elections being held in India. आपने सुना होगा कई बार भारत में कहते हैं पंचों की राय ले लीजिए. Let us take the views of the collective community or the leaders of the community. This is something that's coming to India thousands of years ago. I remember reading about Arthashastra and Kautilya, and in his works also, you will find a lot being written and spoken about democratic cultures thousands of years ago. As Mark Twain, the famous American author, had said, India is the cradle of the human race, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, and the great-grandmother of tradition. And truly, as we mark the contribution of all of the overseas Indians across the world, we feel proud that Indians have contributed to the rest of the world through our rich traditions and culture and our acumen, our managerial skills, our talent, which is today helping Indians lead large corporations, helping Indians contribute to the economic well-being of almost all parts of the world today. Indians have been blessed with huge amount of wealth of knowledge, and I believe the positive impact that all of you are making to America is well recognized in the reception that we get when we come to America or we go to any country. It's truly because we represent a country of today 1.4 billion Indians that we are recognized and respected. I'll share with you a small personal anecdote. Way back in 2014, when I had first become a minister, I was visiting the United States, addressing the UN on a climate change conference. And during the course of several meetings with important CEOs of large corporations, I had a meeting with the CEO of probably America's largest fund. I remember it was a Jewish holiday, a festival, and he had gone back to his hometown to celebrate with his family. When the meeting with me was suggested, he actually flew down to New York and came to the hotel to meet me. I had a series of meetings and got slightly late, and he was waiting in my room. I had a very, very, very good meeting with him, amongst other meetings. And when I reached back home in India, I read the paper, and it seems the previous day, the list of the 100 most influential persons, Forbes or somebody, they all keep coming out with these lists of influential persons. Probably Obama was at the top of the list, number 1 or 2. And this gentleman was 5th or 6th on that list. Now, I felt very embarrassed when I read that list. I said, oh my God, I made him wait for my meeting. And I was seriously feeling very embarrassed. We had a cabinet meeting that day. When I went into the cabinet, I shared with Prime Minister Modi about my visit and about my meetings, including the meeting with this gentleman. And I also shared with him. And that's the beauty of working with Prime Minister Modi. He's so open-minded. He's somebody with whom you can really be very frank and exchange good and bad both. I also took the liberty to tell him that I felt very bad when I read this morning that I had made the world's 5th or 6th most influential person wait for me. He, of course, told me you shouldn't let that happen again. Make sure you're on time. But he also said, and it has remained with me throughout, that remember, he had not come to meet Piyush Goyal. You were representing 130 crore Indians. You were a representative of the future of the world. And today, 8.5 years later, I can proudly share with you that the world today looks up to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The most popular and the tallest leader in the world today is Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In fact, the G20 just concluded in Indonesia at Bali. Through the year, was not able to come out with one text or one agreed document amongst all the members of the G20. Throughout the year, all our ministerials, not a single ministerial we were able to come out with an agreed document reflecting the shared vision of all the member countries. But when the heads of state, heads of government met in the final leaders summit at Bali, it was Prime Minister Modi who offered the right message which brought all the world leaders together on one page. And after a hiatus of a year, all the leaders of the world were able to agree on a collective leaders' declaration. And no less a person than the President of the United States of America, President Joe Biden, has acknowledged that it was Prime Minister Modi's leadership that helped the world at least come together. And in some sense, saved a very important and powerful body like the G20 and saved multilateralism on that very, very critical moment. Prime Minister Modi's words that this is not an era of war. Prime Minister Modi's appeal to all world leaders to take the path of dialogue and diplomacy and solve the problems and the challenges that confront the world today echo in almost every discussion on every international fora today. And I must say that all of you, ambassadors of the Indian ethos, the Indian thinking, the Indian way of working, in a way, bring to America, bring to the United States of America, that collective wisdom that we have learned, that we have grown up with in India and as Indians. And I'm truly delighted that you hold the Indian flag high as you pursue your work here and continue to act as the living bridge between India and the United States of America. A big thank you to all of you for your contribution. Friends, on the 15th of August, as India celebrated Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, Prime Minister Modi gave a clarion call to all Indians, which he called the Panch Pran, the 5 commitments, that he called upon all Indians to pick up as our mantra for the next 25 years, the Amrit Kal, as we work towards India celebrating 100 years of independence in 2047. And I think, in a manner of speaking, the 5 commitments that he gave on 15th August 2022, Panch Pran, they reflect the collective aspiration of every Indian, whether in India or an Indian living anywhere in the world, who continues to be a well-wisher of India. Prime Minister Modi articulated the aspiration of 1.4 billion Indians when he said that by 2047, we should all work to make India a developed nation, a prosperous nation. एक विकसित भारत जिसमें हर व्यक्ति को हर एक सुविधा मिले और एक अच्छा जीवन बिताने का मौका मिले, a good lifestyle. He also spoke about unshackling ourselves from the colonial mindset that we have inherited over years of subjugation, rather centuries of subjugation. He articulated the need to go back to our roots, our rich tradition, our culture, our heritage, our family value systems. What we saw today, our art, our history, going back to our roots. He spoke about the unity and integrity of the country, Bharat ki ekta aur ekjutta. If we keep that alive, if we keep that spirit of oneness, no power on earth can stop India from becoming a developed nation. And the 5th and the most critical and important pran was the sense of duty, kartavya bhavana. We can do all of this, but when we do it with a sense of duty towards our motherland, the results can be astounding. The results can be truly phenomenal. And I think when all of us collectively take this up as our mission back home in India, this has really resonated with every person through the length and breadth of the country. And I have no doubt in my mind that all of you will be a part of this journey over the next 25 years as we progress towards making India a developed nation, towards making India a prosperous nation. And friends, this Indianness that continues to be in your heart. And I was truly delighted to see our young boys and girls, most of whom are born in America, keep our tradition alive. In fact, watching the young girls dance, I was reminded of my own daughter doing her Arangetram after studying Bharatnatyam. And incidentally, that was also on 15th of August, way back, of course, 10 years ago, in Mumbai. And truly, it's so nice to see that our young daughters in the United States of America are maintaining that tradition. I salute all the proud parents of all the children who perform today. And of course, their teacher, Shivani ji, is she here?
Yes.
Thank you, Shivani ji, for your big work. Truly appreciate it. Friends, a lot is happening back home. A lot of which, I think in this day and age of television and internet, you are completely abreast. But there's a lot more that can be done, that needs to be done. Of course, we have been able to convert several of the challenges and problems of the last 3 or 4 years, 2.5 years at least, since COVID outbreak across the world. We've been able to convert these challenges, these crises, into an opportunity. Every step of the way, we face these challenges with a grit and determination that many other parts of the world could not demonstrate. India quickly ramped up its health infrastructure. Today we have 6 indigenously developed vaccines, including a nasal spray as a vaccine, an mRNA vaccine. We were able to provide vaccines to over 1 billion people. I think the overall vaccines are nearly 2.5 billion that have been provided free of charge. There were times when we actually had to move vaccines by helicopter to remote areas on the top of mountains, even for a few families. But no effort was spared to make sure that every Indian feels safe, every Indian is provided that Raksha Kavach, so that we can keep the casualties down. On the economic front, you must have all observed how quickly India rebounds back after the lockdown and after the stresses that the economy had to face. So much so that last year was a record year in terms of growth in all spheres, including our international engagement. Our exports crossed $670 billion for the very first time in our history, and both in goods and services. We had record exports. Investments, foreign direct investment was at an all-time high. For 7 years in a row, we had historically high FDI. Last year was nearly $84 billion. And over the last 2.5 years, we continued to provide food grains under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana to 800 million lesser privileged Indians. They already were getting food grains under the National Food Security Program. Prime Minister Modi doubled the allocation, and the additional was completely free of charge, so that not a single Indian had to sleep hungry throughout COVID. Throughout the 28 months, right up to December 2022, he ensured that no house no home, had to sleep hungry. हर घर का चूल्हा जला. और अगर आप 100 वर्ष पहले की बात करें, when the Spanish flu hit the world, during the Spanish flu it is said, and these are reports that we've read, that more people died of starvation in India than of the Spanish flu itself. I can proudly say today that not a single Indian was hungry, had to face starvation through COVID. Thanks to the very compassionate personality of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. All of you, the second largest immigrant group in the US, with your work right from the Silicon Valley to the East Coast, whether it's the influence that you have on American businesses or your contribution to the White House, you have clearly demonstrated tremendous capacity. The work that you're doing in the field of healthcare in the United States, the work that you're doing in the field of hospitality, journalism, science, technology, business management, engineering, in every field, the Indian diaspora has had a remarkable coming-of-age story. 90 out of the 1,078 founders of about 500 US unicorns are persons of Indian origin. In fact, President Biden's administration today has over 130 Indians serving the US government. I'm really delighted that this spirit of service that the Indian community represents is celebrated in the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas celebrations. And in fact, Atalji had articulated it very well, and I quote, "Success of every category of our emigrants all over the world testify to the indomitable spirit carried from the Indian soil." Some of you may have had your forefathers come from India. Many of you have come in your generation in search of a better life. This country has given you a lot, and I'm sure each one of you have given back to the United States of America manyfold. Today, India is that land of opportunity. Today, India beckons your contribution to make India a great superpower. As we work towards making India a developed nation, I'm sure many of you also will be contributing to making India back to the old glory that we had a few hundred years ago. It is reported that there was a time where India was one of the largest contributors to the global economy. I think it's time we got that glory back in our nation. And I have no doubt in my mind, some of you as technocrats, some of you as investors, some of you as innovators and researchers, in different ways, will give back to your motherland also. As the Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji had said, mere incremental progress is not enough. Today, a metamorphosis is needed back home. The transformational reforms that we have seen over the last few years have made India the world's 5th largest economy. 4 or 5 years from now, we're very confident we'll be the 3rd largest economy. But I can assure you, none of us is going to rest on this laurel. Several steps that have been taken, both for ease of doing business and ease of living, will hold us in good stead as our young population, and we will continue to have the advantage of a young demography. Talented, skilled young Indians are going to drive the Indian economy in the next 25 years. Friends, in this interconnected world, globalized world, with internet, television, opening the eyes of every Indian to what the possibilities are. There's fire in the belly of every Indian. He's aspirational. He wants the good things of life. He or she wants to contribute to a better India, to a stronger India. And therefore, India provides demand. A democracy where the rule of law prevails, transparent economy, with a large domestic consumption demand, provides opportunity, gives you an opportunity to produce to scale. Investments in India give one of the finest returns, which no other country can. A recent study showed that if you look at a 20-year horizon, more Indian companies on the Indian stock exchange have given a 20% plus compounded return to investors than anywhere else in the world. Nearly 1 out of 4 companies on the Indian top 500 Indian companies in the stock exchange in India have demonstrated a 20-year uninterrupted CAGR of 20% returns to their investors. And when you compare that even to a country like the United States of America, against nearly 23% Indian companies giving 20% CAGR returns, the United States stock market, the top 500 companies, had only 7% companies giving a 20% CAGR. Japan was even lower at about probably 2 or 3%. And China, incidentally, was less than 1%. So there's a lot of misconceptions out there. And I would urge all of you to take this message to the world and to the Americans and American corporations and to the sphere of influence that each one of you has, that India is the place to be. India can be your trusted partner in your supply chains, in your investment portfolio, in your business. And as we take up the G20 presidency this year, we are demonstrating to the world our abilities and our contributions as we see them in the next 25 years. In this Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, not only are we reflecting on our achievements, our glory, but focusing on ideas for this Amrit Kal. And I'm sure each one of you will contribute to those ideas, to those efforts, to those ambitions that we bring and participate in the big India opportunity, because you stand to gain a lot. Both you, your families, your businesses have a huge opportunity. And towards that end, I'd like to conclude with 3 or 4 calls to action for all of my friends who have taken the time to be with us here today. One, can we strengthen brand India? Can we bring high quality to everything that we do, both in India and internationally? Can each Indian decide that you will have your weddings maybe back home in India? Can each one of you decide that whatever you give, whether on Diwali, Dasra, Holi, Christmas, New Year, Thanksgiving, whenever, you'll buy an Indian-made product? Maybe a handicraft, maybe a handloom, gift a khadi product, why not? Tea, coffee from back home, from the Araiku Valley, tea from Darjeeling.
Indian grocery.
Prime Minister Modi says, अच्छा कभी कभी कोई चीजें जब नहीं आती है तब उसकी खुशबू और उसकी याद ज्यादा आती है. Otherwise we take things for granted. Can we also present the India investment opportunity to our business colleagues, to the businesses where we work, to investors in the United States of America? Can we contribute to India's growth story through a greater degree of philanthropy, knowledge transfer, innovations being taken to your own country? Your accomplishments in the United States have been huge. You are uniquely positioned to contribute to India's growth story also. And therefore, we invite you not only to share your ideas, your vision, your achievements, and the possibilities that are there in India, but in this century, which the world today acknowledges as India's century, I'd invite you to help us shape the contours of a new India, a powerful India, an India that will lead global growth, an India that is destined to be a Vishwaguru. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Minister. Very, very beautifully you covered so many things, that come under your ministry. Very beautifully you covered the commerce and industry, consumer affairs, food and public distribution, textile. Now I can only assure you, sir, that the Indian diaspora is there to support, and we have been doing things in our capacity to bring the largest and the oldest democracies in the world together. So the Indian diaspora will ensure of good friendship between India and the United States. I wish you a pleasant and a safe stay while you are here in the country for bilateral and the trade ties. For the vote of thanks, may I now request Nishi Dhami to please come. She is the General Secretary of Federation of Indian Associations, New York Tri-State.
It has been such an honor to be part of this wonderful event today. On behalf of the Indian American community and Federation of Indian Associations, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude and sincere thanks to the Honorable Minister, Shri Piyush Goyal ji, for taking out precious time from his busy schedule to meet the Indian diaspora and share the Indian government's vision, initiatives for the Indian overseas community, and the remarkable transformation underway in India. We sincerely thank you for joining us today, and as we celebrate the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, many of our Indian Americans are in India for the Bharatiya Divas convention. We are truly honored by your gracious presence here today in Edison. I would also like to thank Mayor Hemant Mhatre for his presence today and for his strong support to the community. I would like to express my sincere gratitude and thanks to his counsel, Honorable Consul General Shri Randir Jaiswal ji, for organizing this marvelous event here in Edison and bringing together the Indian diaspora from across the northeast of United States. A big thank you and our deep appreciation to the young and budding artists for the beautiful performances. Last but certainly not the least, I would also like to thank you all, the members of Asian American Republican Coalition and Indian diaspora, for joining us this evening in such large numbers and making this event a grand success.